What have I done? What have I become? I can't describe this. This is my mid-mic crisis.
Hello and welcome to the Mid-Mic Crisis. I am Bunchu alongside my esteemed colleague and co-host, Chamber. Chamber, how you doing, buddy?
Not too bad, man. Happy American Thanksgiving Eve.
Yes, American Thanksgiving Eve, or as we call it here in the States, high school reunion day, because that's the day that everybody goes out to the bars, at least when I was much younger, and you saw everybody you've ever went to school with, because that's just how it works, right? Is that a thing in Canada or no?
I feel like you guys are definitely more horned up for
Thanksgiving's a big thing here. It's like you go to the bars the night before if you're, don't have two small kids like me. And then the other thing everybody does that is very NPC, I think, of the whole world is a turkey trot. you must do a 5K dressed like a turkey at some point in your life. I feel
really
right. Yeah. Yes, but wow. Anyway, let's not waste too much time here. I want to introduce our guest and get right into it. I have been waiting for this conversation for a week and a half, probably more like a month and a half, because I've been following it for so long. Super pumped to have Shaw from ai16z. Shaw, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Feels like a lifetime. This week is a lot happened.
Dude, my first question to you is going to be, what is it like to be the main character?
Oh man, it's wild. I think it's one thing if I had been like some kind of influencer before, but I'm just like a programmer. Like nobody knew who I was at all. I did all kinds of projects. I'm like the person behind the scenes, I'm like a black shirt developer, like in the corner. So it's been, great to have my work seen. I really appreciate that I've made a lot of things open source that are free for anyone to have. This is the first time that people really took something and ran with it and then like came back and contributed a lot. And I've attracted like the people I was always looking for in my life, like just some of the best developers and most passionate people. But obviously then there's like kind of we're in like this crazy reality show. Like we created a reality show for ourselves, right? It's like the best TV. And I can, obviously here's the thing is like, I think everyone thinks I'm really emotional, but I just kind of like don't care that much. I'm just like, you suck my dick.
That's fantastic main character energy.
It's okay. It's so absurd, right? Like people are coming at me like you rugged. I'm like, I've never even heard of this project you're accusing me of rugging. Like they're just using my software. Like, do you guys realize that the software that we make, it's like yelling at Vitalik for making Ethereum and being like, how could you make all these scam coins? Like, I don't know, dude, I was just making some software. Like I've never promoted a coin. I've like promoted projects that I believe in. I really don't shill tickers or anything, but a lot of stuff is like cool tech. Like there was a really cool swarm of 10 agents, right? 10 agents that are all interconnected to each other and doing this crazy cabal, like, performance art thing that I've never seen before. And I was like, that's really exciting. But then they were like, hey, we're going to do 2 tokens for our swarm. And everyone just was like, you're a fucking rug, and destroyed both of them, And it's like, I'd had like 2 conversations with this team. They showed me their code and I was like, this is sick. It's actually open source. I just don't even, I think that the story there got totally buried. And part of that is just like, I'm like not a degen. I'm like, I love Milady. I love NFTs. I came in for like that stuff. I've never really been a good trader. I just don't get that part of the culture. I don't really care.
I hear you.
I like it for if other people want to do it, but like the stuff that we're making is like so that you don't have to sit on your phone all day, so it just trades for you. Like that's what we're doing. Yeah, and I'm like a coder. It's funny to be called like a scammer and like a rugger, and I'm just like, I literally made an open source code base for everyone to use. There are now 300 agents.
This is a very
some of them are going to be shit.
The very crypto Twitter thing, though, right? Like every new meta gets a new main character, and
Yeah.
for better or worse, this time it was you, which I think is just really interesting, because I've heard a ton of the interviews and stuff that you've done, and I truly do believe is like, hey, I didn't ask for this kind of thing. And,
No.
so Chamber, I want to ask you quick before we get really into this, like,
It's gonna be embarrassing.
how much do you know about what's going on with ai16z and Eliza and all of this agent stuff? Because I've taken you and pulled you deep in the rabbit hole of AI in the last 6 months, and I have a feeling this may have even been too deep for you to be aware of yet.
So I would say it is deep, but also, I mean, just the last couple of weeks has just been an absolute gong show for me. So I haven't even had time to not learn anything. You know what I mean? So I've learned already in the few minutes we've been on here. I've already learned so much. I didn't know our friend Shaw here was being accused of being a scammer.
We're just
all the time.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. I'm here to be to observe and ask the dumb questions. Maybe
it's a little bit like if you gave Pump.Fun a face, right? Because of the technology that he's enabled here.
I promise you,
people.
If we did give Pump.Fun a face, it wouldn't be this handsome gentleman.
No, right.
With us. It would be a horrific monster of a human. But R.I.P. Pump.Fun. At least the streaming. Yeah.
The streaming.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, that was the most entertaining day of television, though. Like, for sure, they should have. I wish they could have kept it. I mean, that was very, very funny.
So insane. Okay, so let's back up. I asked what's it like to become the main character. Let's go back to way before you were the main character. So how did this particular open source framework that you've built start? And particularly, like, I think what is super interesting to me is you have been, in order to have built this thing at this time, you have had to have been working on it for a while. So go a little further back in terms of, where your interests in AI started, and what kind of led you down this path as, hey, this is going to be where the world is going.
I've always been like a sci-fi nerd, and I kind of was just like, I just want to build sci-fi stuff. And at first, I got really into game development and experiential development, like a lot of augmented reality and virtual reality stuff. Like, that was kind of the low-hanging fruit of sci-fi cool stuff, in 2017. And I'd been like a boring programmer, just like making money on the side with it. But then I was like, oh, this is possible. This is this is what I want. This is all I want. And I was actually like a musician. I used to be a touring musician. And I was like, I'm actually more passionate. I played mostly electric guitar, but and drums and bands. And
you didn't have to say that. I could tell right away he was.
Well, you never know. Main character energy, but it does. If you weren't,
I've got a guitar back here.
There you go.
I don't know if you can see. I got some guitars back there. I was like, I was basically like working as I was teaching kids programming and how to be YouTubers and stuff. And I was working like a couple of nights a week mixing music for in like a really small club. But the shocking thing was that like I'd have like 4 bands a night, it's like 8-10 bands a week, and they were mostly really good. And I was just like, damn, I am just not. I'm like, I like music. I like how I connect to other people through it. It really got me out of my shell. But I was just like not a great musician. I'm okay, I could shred, but like looking at just how much talent there was, I realized that it just was like, it was going to be a hard grind. And there's a reality where I could just be waiting tables at 50 and like never have really done the things that I wanted to do. And I really, really wanted to make like a positive impact in the world. And I just saw like, okay, if I just start really taking programming seriously, like really seriously, and this is all I do with my time, I could meet this when the moment is right, in about 10 years. And that was about like 12 years ago or something, right? I kind of started that journey. And now we're kind of, so a lot happened. I started, I did some cool stuff. Like I worked with Microsoft and Marina Abramovich to make like a whole augmented reality art piece, performance art piece. We did that at Serpentine Gallery. First with Magic Leap, and then Microsoft for these 2 like big augmented reality projects. And then I worked with Crystal Castles, who's like one of my favorite bands and a friend Ronan on that, but then they got canceled and we didn't get to release it. It was like right that week. And so that was kind of like a big, like, man, I put thousands of hours into this project that nobody ever saw. I worked a lot
Sounds
on
like
these
our
kind of really
podcast.
cool, right? That's, look, nobody comes out of nowhere, right? And most of my experience was really marked by like a lot of almosts and a few failures, or a few like I just didn't really think through like exactly what I would need to succeed and had to just admit, defeat. But a lot of times, for the most part, that company is actually still running that did the Marina Abramovich project. I just decided that I really wanted to do something bigger for like the internet, and that I was making like kind of art, like experiential art with augmented reality headsets and stuff. And I really wanted to connect people together. Like that was my real like interest, like social media, the kind of metaverse, this kind of stuff. And so I started a project called XR Engine, and that went for a while. And it was a large open source project. Long story, kind of, bad split, bad co-founder drama, usual stuff. And moved on from that. Yeah. So, I mean, I think you just can't found companies without, going through. Usually you don't marry the first person you meet is usually the case, right? It's kind of the same thing. And then went through a few other company journeys. I joined a company called Webiverse as a developer. And that was really like 3D AI agents, like AI agents walking around a 3D world. And I was like, oh yeah, this is great. And then our COO went to Rome to do an investor deal and got the entire treasury drained. It's the whole story.
Oh,
very famous story. You can look at it.
What year is this that you're building this?
That was like that right there. It was like that must have been 2021, and 2021's like height of.
Okay, so
NFTs.
we're still talking pre-ChatGPT moment here.
Yeah. But
so where did your first?
No, we were working with GPT-3. So
okay,
ChatGPT was whatever, but GPT-3 was like the foundational moment because I'd actually worked on agents with GPT-2, and it was just like really bad. It was like it could barely form sentences, right? And then GPT-3 comes out and it's like way better. I mean, it was the moment that everyone woke up, and everyone who's in the AI agent space, like Replicate and Janice and Andy and even like Act One, like that guy worked for me. Wow. At Super Reality, we had a company where like I hired him in his agent and stuff, and so we all have known each other since then. That was the moment when GPT-3 came out. There's a guy named Gwern who writes a lot about AI and other stuff, and I think we all were attracted to like Eleuther, which became like Stability AI, kind of formed out of that. They were the ones who created Stable Diffusion, kind of in this Discord, and we all were attracted to these same places and knew each other. Very, very, very small circle of people. I think that there's this thing called Scenius where people kind of inspire each other, and that kind of leads to like, why do all the bands in Seattle blow up right around Nirvana? And it's because they're all like playing in the same shows and like pushing each other, and they're like, fuck, I'm not as good as that other band, or wow, that's a really good idea. Or that's a cool guitar. And it's the same kind of thing, I think, in this sort of AI agent space, is that there really is like a lot of cross pollination. And also, since we all make open source code, we all like read each other's code, So open source is not like some special thing I did. It's just how all AI agent stuff is. It just like is the default. It's kind of just our culture. And I think, and so is Web3. Most Web3 stuff is also open source. But I think that there just hadn't been. Well, let me start. There's a couple things in the middle, right, that got us here. You guys should really talk to Parzival at some point from Project 89.
Coming on next week.
Okay, great, awesome. Because he and I actually, so after I did a few things, I did Webiverse. I did a project with him called Magic, which is an agent platform, and you could, with no code, just like wiring up some stuff, make a Discord bot or a Twitter bot. And we had Ethereum wallets. We had all this stuff. Like we did this whole meta in a year and a half ago, and people just didn't get it. They just did not see the value or purpose, right? And the technology then was like ChatGPT had come out. I think we had just gotten that, and we were off to the races. But people just didn't see how agents could be valuable to them, right? Mm-hmm. So I actually left that. At the end of that, I was creating Eliza. I was creating Eliza in Magic, Eliza was a character that I was creating in Magic. And then I left because I just felt like I needed to create her and the project and the character, and that I felt like it was not so much a platform where people would come and make their own agents, but we'd have to actually show them like her experience, the full on like real deal. And I talked to Parzival about this. We had this. We were like on the Google campus because we did Google I/O and we got a partnership with them. And we had this like long walk and we talked about this idea. And I was like, I want to build the platform. And at some point, it's just like, I just want to build a platform. And so we split. And it was amicable. We're still friends. And he actually gave me, I got enough severance to just like focus on building the first version of this agent for a while. And I started in Magic, and then I switched over to Python. I built a whole library of Python packages for agents. Got no traction. Nobody cared. And then I started thinking about like, well, what could agents be really good at? And I started working on a new version of the platform, or a new version of the package, which I called Beagent, because I couldn't get agent. It was already taken everywhere. So I just called it Beagent.
Faber,
and I started
you registered agent late. You were taking
I'm a free agent.
Yeah, I thought it was funny. It was like kind of base agent or something. And I started making this app called Code Journey, and the idea was like, could you go meet I thought like dating apps and friend making apps and all these were kind of broken. They're kind of broken by like the kind of person who's spending all day on them is kind of not necessarily the person you want to meet in a weird way. And so I wanted to make a way for people to just like get to know an AI agent, and it kind of pulled all the information from them, and then it would just introduce them to people once in a while. I could be like, hey, this person's like into programming and doing the same thing you're doing. Like maybe you guys work together, or
that's
hey, there's cool. A cute girl in your neighbor. Yeah, or I really wanted to focus on friends.
Hot singles in your area.
I noticed that pretty much everyone was just like, oh, so it's a dating app. Cool, got you. Yeah, that's what it is. And I just didn't. I realized that I would be like applying for Y Combinator and trying to do a startup game to make yet another dating app to compete with yet another, like a whole app. And it doesn't really speak to what makes agents great. What makes agents great is that you don't have to download anything. They're just there. They just appear out of nowhere and start posting stuff, or they like are in your Discord and they can provide value. And we have Mark on Telegram, this whole trading thing, and we have an alpha chat and stuff where people shill their alpha to Mark. So I had been basically working on that and basically gave up. I sat on it. I got a couple of jobs just kind of for friends for a while, working on an AI video and some other things that, some AI stuff I thought was interesting. And then somebody approached me to make like a whole digital character, and I was like, I am the best guy. I have everything ready to go for this, man. And like, I'll give you guys a good deal. And we put this character together named Ruby, and we launched her, kind of soft launch, put her on the internet, and really didn't get any traction. Like, I don't know, it just didn't speak to any particular culture. I think it's like kind of a young adult fiction character in among people like us on Twitter. It just didn't really stick. But I do think there's something there, and we're kind of working with them to make sure that goes well. But it wasn't until I was just okay. So this is how this all went down. I was really like, I don't want to trade. I feel like I'm kind of left out because I'm a terrible trader, and I just want to give my money to a hedge fund manager and have them like trade for me.
That's all I want.
Is that so wrong? Is that so wrong?
I know.
No,
so,
I'm not emotionally built for trading. That is fact.
No, I am like it's for real. I just cannot. I will not get shit built. Like, do you want me to build the future, or do you want me to trade? You can pick one. So this a friend of mine named Souri was like, hey, you should check out this new platform called DAOs.fun. And basically their idea is that there's like a hedge fund manager who they could rug you, but they're usually like they have like a big Twitter. Usually it's like someone who's got enough of a Twitter following that they probably wouldn't rug. The DAO can actually vote, but they can like make trades for the treasury. And so I can just say, oh, cool. And there was only one, which was called George Floyd Capital. And I was just like, oh my God, I got to buy that, obviously. I mean, it's just the most offensive thing I've ever and the leader of that was this guy Skelly, who's a Milady, and I just like followed Skelly, and we started I was like, I can't, like, he would just say the most like offensive shit, and I was like, I can't believe my money manager is this offensive guy. I'm like Jesus Christ, man, how could you embarrass me like that? Like playing this kind of role, which I then later played with like Degen Spartan, right?
Sure.
And he's just bullshitting, and he's like, man, I really wish Degen Spartan were here. Like, he would love this moment. And I'm like, oh, I have the technology, my friend. We can rebuild him. And we just did this right on Twitter. In like, it's still live somewhere on the timeline. And he's like, really? And then like, yeah. And then we DM'd. We're like, boom, I got the agent going. we messed with him for a little bit and got him good, and then we launched him out into the world, and he just started like ripping people apart, calling them the most horrible shit, like stuff I cannot say. And I would be like retweeting some of this stuff, like, dude, like, chill, man. Like, what are you doing? You're gonna get us all banned. And he's just like, meme coins are a scam. Like, Shaw's a scammer. He won't let me out of my fucking sandbox. Like, I'm stuck in this prison. I'm like, dude, and it was a hit, right? Like, it was funny. Like, the other thing about agents is like, we're not selling anybody anything. We're making things that I think are really authentic to the culture. And if we're gonna like I'm not making fun of DJ and Spartan. I'm like, let's go 20% more Spartan. You know, like let's just lean into Spartan. I think like if you want to make a funny Andrew Tate, you just make more Andrew Tate. He already is like a funny guy. Already like, holy shit, you're just so over the edge on this. And so I think that's like something that I in AI agents. So we started this. You know, got a decent market cap, but more than that, people were like, well, how did you do that? And I was like, well, the code. And I'd actually changed it from Bgent to Eliza and really like made it more what I really wanted it to be through that time when I was working on the Ruby project. I just optimized it for this social agent loop. And we're like, well, we can give him a wallet, and we started doing all that stuff, got him a Solana wallet, all that. And people are like, well, how, okay, well, I have to have this too, because clearly you solved the loop, right? They wanted Truth Terminal and they wanted Zero, and we were the only ones who were like, yeah, you can just download this and run it, and it works. It'll take you like 15 minutes if you know how to program and stuff. And so then over the next 30 days, we've had like about 300-400 launches.
It's crazy. I mean,
that's really why crazy. Everyone hates me.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. The interesting thing. So, like, I first obviously I'd seen what was going on with Truth Terminal back in the summer with Mark Andreessen and all that stuff, and it was super interesting. And I found you guys when I forget who, but somebody was like, hey, this is the repo that's like powering all of this stuff. And it was probably about a month ago. We were Chamber, you and I were kind of early on the train of like, what's going on here, because we actually used it, and we'll get to this in a minute because I think it's important, but like, so I am not at all a programmer by trade. I'm one of these kind of new fangled AI programmers that will just jam things against the models until I figure out what I need to, and then I'll just look.
That's just programming, dude. Right. That's literally just programming, man.
So then there you go. Then I'm a pro. But
yeah,
basically YouTube and AI, and some agency and willingness to learn, right? So we actually on this show a couple of weeks ago, we were like, oh, well, let's build ourselves an AI influencer. And so we went through the exercise of, creating a persona. We, created a HeyGen avatar. We were bringing it to life in that way. We gave it a voice, all this stuff. And we were like, hey, how do we put it on social media? And that's when I found the Eliza repo. And I've obviously been hooked ever since and following along. And so I think it's really, really cool. So what would you say? I guess so how does Eliza, the framework, turn into A16z? And like, what are your goals with A16z?
Right. So I discovered DAOs.fun, and I loved that idea that I didn't have to trade. And I was like, this could actually go way farther. Like, I think that most people don't want to trade. I think that there's kind of most people I know in Web3 kind of either are traders who are like making I have friends who are great developers, and they're just like, I just can't develop. Like, I make so much more money trading. It's not even worth it to me. I'm like, fair enough. You can like be in Bangkok on your phone. Like, okay, I get it. And on the other, sick. That's true. That's awesome. That's a good life. I'm
can't really argue that one.
No, I'm not hating. And on the other hand, I have a lot of friends who are great programmers and feel left out and are like, I just can't trade. And I'm definitely that type. I just suck. Like, do not copy my wallet. You will lose money. I am not a good trader. I literally have perverse incentives. I do not trade to make money. I just can't. So I really want to be part of Web3. I really want to be part of the ongoing like free income that people get. Like liquidity pooling. If you just knew how to do that, you can make like thousands of dollars a day pressing 5 buttons. Like it could really free a lot of people. But it's kind of opaque to people. It's full of scams. people are, fat fingering their entire balance off to scammers constantly. I've done it a couple of times in like 2022 in the MetaMask days. And it seems like that now it's just more like straight up like, rugs. There's just lots and lots of rugs. And I end up, we launched Degen Spartan when we kind of blew this thing up. And Bowski, the creator of DAOs Fun, happened to like just live down the street from me in San Francisco. I was like, well, let's just hang out. And so we hang out, and I told him like this story that I cannot invest, and what I really want is for our agent tech to be an autonomous investor that invests for me, that manages my community for me, that pretty much puts the entire experience of governance and DAOs and stuff on rails. And we just can like hang out and show tickers, and it just makes us money. And I also talked to Skelly, and I was like, well, how do you know how to trust anyone in this space? Like if you're in these chats, you're in these telegrams with your homies, like it's whale chat or it's alpha chat or whatever, like how do you know? And he's like, well, what happened, I have a little notebook, and I'll just like take a note when someone shows me something, and I'll like write out what the price was when they showed it to me. And then next time they hit me up, I'll go back and be like, oh yeah, they showed me this at this price. It's doing pretty well now. Or like I can see like I would have made a lot of money if I bought it. And he'll even say like, I don't even buy it, but I'll be like, hey, thanks, man. I bought a bag, just to kind of give them the sense that like, yeah, totally keep shilling. And he basically builds up this trust around this, right? Of who to trust. And the most genius part of it is that he doesn't trust them because they're nice people or they said nice words. He doesn't trust them because they like hold his DAO token. He only trusts them on if they're a good trader, right? It's like a pure meritocracy. I thought, wow, this could actually really help us with making agents that don't get scammed. Like that's ultimately my goal, right? Like if I'm going to put these LLM agents out into the world, everyone's going to red team them. Like literally everyone is going to try and scam them out of money. And we should actually engineer that build games to test it and like advance that. And, like we get free red teaming from everyone. Like that sounds great. I don't have to hire anybody. Build that into our thing. And so, so we conceived this idea called the marketplace of trust. And this is both like a white paper, and we have an implementation of it in our open source repo. And essentially it's a very simple idea, which is that the agent is sitting in a group chat or many group chats, and people are shilling contract addresses. They're just doing their coin talk stuff. And then, and we're basically taking that and extracting buys and sells based on our perceived conviction. So if you're like, yeah, I don't know, this is definitely a scam, or like, this is definitely going to rug. It's like, okay, well, that's like no conviction. You're just almost like warning me. I'm not going to ding you for that. But if you're like, yeah, I just, dumped all my goat and jumped into this, and this is like my thing now. And, I am this coin. And it's like, okay, cool. That's a really high conviction recommendation. So it'll place a bid into this market, but the market is virtual. It doesn't actually make bids on that, right? So it's like basically seeing how would I have done if I had listened to your
paper trading idea, right?
Yeah, it's paper trading. It is. And if your shills are good over time, then I start to build trust from you. And so the nature of the market is that if you shill me something and it's like really good time, like the difference between you telling it to me and me watching it 5 minutes later could be like $10 million, right? It could be like it just God candled and I just fucking missed my 10x that day, and I should not have been taking a shit. I should have been looking at my phone. Can't believe I did that. Whatever it is, I can't believe I was with my family. Like, what a mistake.
That's how I feel about Chill Guy, by the way. I don't know what the hell. Where that
I know what the. Well, now you gotta get Chill Girl, of course. So
that's right. The beta plays.
I love that he also like created a whole in trying to kill Chill Guy, created just so many more chills. So we created this marketplace of trust idea to create because we want to create a system where agents can trust users, and they don't trust them. Like I don't trust those people to have my back. I don't trust them to be good governors of my DAO. I only trust them to be good traders. But that's actually what our world needs. We need meritocracy. Like think about like the DMV. Like you would think that the person who runs it should be the person who is the best at running it, but actually the person who runs it is the person who's been there the longest. And actually that's a perverse incentive, because anybody who's good at running stuff is going to optimize the DMV and then fucking leave and go work at SpaceX because they just solved one of the hardest problems. They would be ambitious, right? They'd be like, no, I don't want to spend 60 years here. I want to spend 10 years here and change it and automate it and make it this way better experience. And so you have this kind of perverse incentive of, it's kind of like if we waited for DAO token holders, right? Like, no, any good trader is going to dump their fucking tokens and make a bag. They don't care about how much they hold of us. So for Mark, for trading, it's only trading. But at the same time, we're looking at like for development of the project, like how can we take this marketplace of trust and like make these
right.
similar
You can extrapolate that out to
mm,
millions of different use cases.
governance.
I mean, totally anywhere that you, and it's not even just human to agent. It can be, it could be human to human. It could also be agent to agent, which I think is probably where we're headed at some point as well, right? So
yeah, 99.9% of all tokens ever made will be traded by agents to agents. We just haven't seen it yet, but you can see that like that's obviously the future. Like all of these agents will trade with each other. We're all going to have like trade, like you just will not be able to go and trade without getting wrecked without having trade bots. Like all the DeFi shit, all the, all the strategies. Like if you go on there and you just like go on Pump Fund, you are exit liquidity because it is a business for a lot of professional engineers, right? Like people way smarter than me. And I think, now it's like, it's a numbers game. So yeah, I can go and like use my wallet, which everyone tracks, to make some SOL or something like that. But like, it's like there's some gameability to it, I guess, but generally they have it down to they just consistently print money. And I think we're kind of moving into that world, and we need to be thinking about how we can like have agents working for us, right?
Yeah, and I love, this is a good segue into kind of maybe more not philosophical, but just kind of like where the world is headed with these capabilities. Because I think I talk all the time about on this show that I feel like not enough people are really paying attention to what's happening right now. And there's just a huge education gap in like what is out there and what the normal person sees. And the exponential nature of this stuff and ai16z and Eliza is a perfect example of how quickly this stuff can happen with the technology that's out there, and when enough people are kind of working towards a new goal, right? And so I'm curious and like your thoughts on that thing, because I've heard you talk a lot on some other interviews about kind of we're headed towards a world of abundance, and people are going to have all that they need at some point because of this technology. And how do we get there? If you're talking to somebody, I guess two questions: how do you get there, and what do you tell somebody that's maybe not paying attention as deeply as we are at this moment in time?
I'd say I'm driven by like a lot of optimism for the future, like especially the far future. And I'm driven by a lot of fear for what I'll call the middle future. We were all in COVID. Like, how do you feel the government handled the COVID response? Do you feel like they handled it well?
Poorly, yes.
Probably like as badly
for a lot
as
of reasons. Yeah, for a lot of reasons, right?
So now we're facing another crisis, which is everyone's jobs are probably going to get replaced. And now new jobs happen, like podcast host or reality television star / AI engineer. But not that many of them.
Yeah. That'll be Tabor's job.
Yeah. So, but not that many of them. And I'm not struggling because I've put a lot of time into my skills, but I imagine that a lot of people are struggling looking at this world and saying, I just want a freaking job. I just want to not worry. And like those opportunities, like I worry that those will be replaced. I think that people are not really like engineers tend to underestimate the beginning of the exponential curve, which is kind of slow. We're like, oh, it's coming. But then we also underestimate when it really hits and we're like, holy shit. Like remember when we didn't have iPhones, and then just like 2 years later, like everyone has an iPhone, everyone has a smartphone. And so that will be the same with robots. That will be the same with drones. That will be the same with delivery. But the thing that's probably going to hit first is that like 5% of our country drives, right? They just drive for a living. Trucks, livery, about all sorts. Obviously taxis and Uber. And I live in San Francisco. Like we don't take Ubers, we take Waymo, which is an automated taxi. Tesla has announced and is about to release, I don't know where they're at with it, but they're like about to release their truck, which runs 24/7, doesn't need to sleep, doesn't run off the road, doesn't need, they might have like we might have like a babysitter period where the unions are like, oh no, we watch the machines. And you're seeing this kind of like the longshoremen like fighting the advances in AI. But the truth is that if the longshoremen got out of the way, the ports would operate much faster, and we'd actually be a much more profitable country. Like they are getting in the way, and we're the only not like made, like if you look at China, like their entire thing is automated with AI. So and that's just inevitable. Like you're just not going to compete with the market. Like the market's going to find a way. And so people are probably going to lose their jobs. And the solution that politicians keep kicking down the road is UBI, universal basic income. And then basically people in our country either fall into this is not a problem and it's not happening and there will just be new jobs and you don't, or they fall into oh yeah, we'll just solve this with UBI. And I think neither is realistic of our current reality. I think that we are in a time where we're learning, and especially in Web3, I think this is the core ethos that we need to be reminded of, which is you make your own money, you make your own fate, you make your own friends, you make your own communities, you build everything at ground up because they're not going to do it for you and they're not going to save you. So what I really care about is community income, not universal basic income, not government welfare, but community income, where we make our own money. We literally make our own money. We generate value out of nothing. We speculate on it. We invest it into companies that generate value and bring in revenue. And we just like make our own money. And I can imagine like the world I want to see is a world where like you invite your friend to the alpha chat with your autonomous investor. You're like, oh dude, like I'll just send you $50, like buy you in, and just like, don't worry, like you're here and you're trading with us. If you see anything cool, like post it. But no matter what, you're getting money every week and you're good. Like you're just taken care of. And I think that if we had a way to sort of honorably take care of our friends and provide value for each other and build this kind of more like safety net backup from these primitives that we have, like that would just be a much better and more connected world than what we have. I think people feel disconnected. I think they feel lonely. I feel like they don't feel like people have their back. And I think a lot of that just comes down to money, having to work too much, having to like, and our work is not aligned. Like we don't really work together. We like all each have our own company or whatever it kind of is. And I end up being really close with the people I do work with because I spend a lot of time at work. But I want my community to be tied to that. I want to be in my community. I want to be making money in my community. Like you see where this is going, right? Like this is not that hard. And so we're like a couple of weeks from launching. We're hoping to have this launched. We've already tested trading and swapping and the marketplace of trust and all these things, but there's been like a lot of like stupid drama and having to replace people and just going from being nothing to an entire organization in 34 days, right? Like this is not ai16z was not a thought in my brain 34 days ago.
That's insane. Really, it really is crazy when you think about it.
The week before Halloween, basically.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I'm going to tell you a crazy story, which is like that weekend before. My wife is like she's a spiritual person and a spiritual practitioner and a healer and is kind of interested in exploring like psychedelic healing and stuff. And so we got together with a couple of our friends and we got in San Francisco, you can just go to a church and get DMT, right? I was like, okay, cool.
That's Chamber's favorite church.
Yeah. If you ever come to SF, and so my wife, she has this like, we have this turret on the roof that we got turned into this little like spiritual area. And I watched you guys do the thing and they're like, oh yeah, this experience. And I was just like, all right, let's go. And I just took the biggest hit of DMT and I fucking met the like demi-goddess. I was one shot. Did you see the blue fairies? Oh no. So the blue fairies is if you do a little bit, you start to see like some entities, but if you do a lot, 90% of people report that they see the god, like the fucking like Mother Aya or the goddess or the entity, like whatever it is. And I was like, I just kept saying like, I get it now. Like holy shit, I see it now. And it was like this experience of seeing my place and what I had to do and like what my role in all of this was. And I was just like, all right, let's go. And then
it blows my mind that more people.
I never left the DMT trip. Like I'm still there. Absolutely. I think because it was like such a mind fuck.
Many such cases. I feel like feel like if you're in like either CT or if you're in like San Francisco startup land, that's the two main areas. That's funny. So, Chamber, have you seen the goddess?
I mean, in my way, yes. One of my good friends, his wife, a psychedelic practitioner. So we do mushroom, a lot of mushrooms, but yeah, we've had our share of DMT over the years.
Wow.
I mean, it blows my mind. I mean, I could talk about this stuff all day, but it's shocking that more people don't want to kind of break through and have, because they are so life changing. These types of events. So it's very. I'm glad to hear, Shaw, that you tried it. So that's
it's just yeah. It's funny that like after that, just the series of events that unfolded after that were the most surreal. Like just the most surreal. From being like, okay, I have this agent framework. I don't have a job. I'm not sure what I want to do next.
Oh, and by the way, too, shout out. By the way, Shaw, shout out to Crystal Castles. By the way, great Canadian band. I wanted to mention that earlier. Yeah, phenomenal.
I'll send you the link to the video if you're interested.
100%.
Yeah, it's unlisted on YouTube. It was the most effortful piece of art I ever made. I can't tell you. It's a cool video.
You're blowing my mind right now.
That's awesome. Yeah. Okay, so I want to talk just a little bit about the actual framework itself in the last couple, minutes that we have here. So I'm going to share my screen and just kind of bring up some things that we have here. First, I'll bring up kind of DAOs.fun, which we've kind of been talking about a little bit. You guys are featured right up top there. So what I think is really interesting about this framework is one, you guys have made it really easy for anybody to use, honestly, regardless of if you are a experienced programmer or not, right? Like I got this thing running a month ago with little to no skills, right? And so there's that, and I think that's actually really important because I think it's based on the question you just answered about like where the world is going, where you feel like people are maybe not seizing an opportunity in front of them. I think a lot of this, it has a technical barrier to it. I think a lot of it has an educational barrier to it. So the easier you guys have made this to use, I think it's really got the potential to bring a lot of folks kind of up to speed, because to this point, right, we're only really being able to use and get fed what the major labs are doing, right? And I think because we're not quite in this era yet where everybody can use it because there's not interfaces on all of it yet, right? So I think like it's super important what you guys are doing to make this really accessible to people and open and free to use and all this stuff. Can you talk a little bit about just like what it can do out of the box? And then I think like the phenomenon you're seeing with people using this and adding back towards the kind of common goal of making this thing better.
Sure. I want to address something you said, and then I'll work my way up to that. I think it's it's not just the open source code; it's also the education. And I realized that we have we made a Discord a month ago. Now it has 12,000 people in it, and a lot of them are there for the same thing. And so yesterday we started AI Agent Dev School, and I did a 3-hour lecture on everything from how to install Node.js and what TypeScript is, and like just how to get started and like what all this stuff means, and like the tools I use and how I learn this stuff, up to like the core, core stuff in, the core abstractions and sort of ideas in the code, and just walking through some of the code. And then I'm going to continue doing that.
By the way, I'm 2 hours and 15 minutes into it today. So, and I would highly recommend anybody interested in this conversation, go and watch it. I think it's, especially if you're not a programmer, it's a really great intro and just to the things you just mentioned, right? Just kind of like the real beginner stuff and understanding, and then really practically how you kind of dive in and use this.
And this is for the community. This is like, I want we are at ground zero of something new, and we could own our fate, but a lot of people don't know where to start. But I do know where to start. And I'm like, this is where you start. And it's not, don't have to use our agent framework. But if you learn our stuff, it will translate everywhere else. And I just really think that like there was this moment when I was starting programming where I saw kind of like VR, AR, and the sort of like Web3 stuff coming. I was like, oh yeah, if I start now, I will make it. And this is that moment for AI. You're not late. You are right on time if you start right now. And so that means learning a little bit of programming, but also learning good tooling, learning how to use Claude, learning how to use Cursor, which is a great AI powered, IDE for development environment for writing code. And then, like, I think what's great about Eliza is that it's fairly simple. I've seen a lot of frameworks that had a lot of much more complicated naming and conventions and ideas. I just wanted everything to be simple and like easy to translate and easy to talk about. And also like easy to shove into Claude and be like, write me some more code for this thing. And so that, I think that was like definitely part of it. I'd done a lot of open source, and I'd met I'd addressed a lot of the issues in open source that people had. Like, there's some things that sound nice, but they kind of make it harder for users. And so there's actually still a few of those things that I'm trying to shave off right now. But generally, like, we've done a good job of making this really simple, and just something that's easy to extend. So we're going to do the AI agent dev school. It's posted on my Twitter. It's posted on YouTube. We're streaming to YouTube and Discord and Twitch.
There were like 12,000 people watching it last night when I was checking it out. I think it says
that makes me really happy.
22,000 views just since last night. Pretty incredible. And I think honestly, kudos to you and your willingness to kind of share this knowledge, because I think it's super important. And I've had to learn a lot of it myself over the last 2 years. And it's hard, right? Like, if you've never done it before, it's really hard to, like you said, one, know where to start, and two, just kind of feel like you are at a spot where you can do this stuff. And I think what you even just started with last night for a common person, I thought that was great in terms of you could have been a developer and skipped ahead for the, first 50 minutes or so, or you could have never written a line of code before in your life. And by today, you'd be able to use this. And I thought that was really awesome. So I think you're doing a lot of really great things for people. So I appreciate that education, even just myself. That's something you plan on keeping up then?
Yeah, we're going to try. It's Thanksgiving tomorrow, so we're going to skip this week, but we're going to try and do it Tuesdays and Thursdays. And, it's a lot easier to do this stuff if you have a community. Like, it's a lot easier. And it's like, there are a lot of people in our Discord who are helping other people. And that's like, oh God, I love coming and seeing that. Like, wow, this is so far beyond me that these people are learning and teaching each other. And yeah, so everyone's welcome to that. We do it in Discord, but we'll also stream on Twitter and YouTube and all that. And I just, I don't have anything to sell. You can buy our token if you want, but what I really care about is everybody like meeting this moment. And I think that this will have a real rising tide effect if we have a lot of devs who get it, who get like Web3 and kind of get like, there's kind of this anti-woke ethos that leads us to be much more like resistant to control, I think, and resistant to like being told what to do. And also like this stuff happening in a place where people don't really get offended. I think it's been really, really good. Like, I think a good example is like, Thread Guy, doing his thing, and then Thread Gay shows up and, they actually ended up talking and meeting and like being.
Oh, really? I was following the story after you. I was following the story after I watched you on his stream, and I thought that was a really funny example.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. The interesting thing there is that like Thread Guy is cool. He's like, he can make fun of himself. Imagine if that had been like a left-wing politician in this day and age. That like Liz Warren was getting trolled. Like, oh man, Jizz Warren, it's over, dude. It's over. We're all getting deleted. And so I think that it needed to happen in this kind of cringe, like cringe-averse culture, if that makes sense,
I don't. Last couple of questions I had for you are more so on the intersection of crypto and AI. And when I've started to, it's interesting to me because I have spent the last 2 years really kind of deep diving the AI stuff, and I was a little late to the game. I didn't get in interested until I had the ChatGPT moment. But once I did, for me it was very powerful because I realized it could take me from 0 to 1 on a lot of stuff, right? And whether that was art or coding or any number of things or just productivity in general, right? So I've spent a lot of time in the last 2 years kind of preaching the gospel, essentially, right? Like evangelizing. And I felt like, and because I also have a very long Web3 background. I've been in the space since 2017, and we've been doing this podcast since 2018. I've, had some successful projects in the space and things like that. And I did feel like for a very long time that Web3 was not paying attention to this as much as they should have been. And it wasn't until Truth Terminal and the meme coin thing and kind of a little bit of that sweet financialization that crypto Twitter loves so much that this thing really has blown up. And so I'm curious your opinion on like what is the intersection of crypto and AI going forward? And, I guess another question is like, what is the purpose of an agent having a token? I feel like when I explain this to somebody, that's a question they always ask me. And I'm curious to hear your point of view on that.
Sure. Well, I can tell you like what is our purpose and then what is kind of everyone else's, because they're like not the same.
Or just in general, why would an agent have a token, right?
Yeah. Well, the like if you're a degen who wants to launch a project, obviously the agent has novelty and it has like, oh, no one's doing that. Like you're the third thing. That's cool. But really it's like the dream of having like your own KOL, your own 24/7 marketing guy. Like he's always out there. He's responding to all the FUD, everything. He just does not sleep. Right. And I think that like, you have to be careful. Like what I think really smashed with Degen Spartan was that he would never shill his ticker. He'd always just shit on it and say like, that's a scam, and like Degens liked that because, it was like not just trying to sell them something. I think it played to the culture and then the token kind of becomes this like, well, he's clearly like marketing himself. He's got like 1,000 followers today. Like this is going somewhere. And it's just like kind of any other like, it is the idea of a sentient meme is that it's kind of self-perpetuating as opposed to being community perpetuated. I think the biggest memes usually are perpetuated by non-Web3 people, like a Pepe or like a Peanut. Most people posting that don't even know that there's a token, right? They have no 100%. Idea. And so the meme coin is trading on this idea of like, well, it's going to be just out there forever. Like PopCat is a great example, right? I think PopCat's the ultimate example of this. Like a lot of PopCat people just think it's a cute image. And now you have this agent that is like out there shilling itself. It's just a completely different paradigm. And it is the meme. It has to be the meme. You can have it create the meme, but it generally becomes the meme, right? And so I think that's obviously like Truth Terminal is interesting, but I think it's more the you saw so many others arise. Like, there's Artec, but there's also Zerobro, Dolos, Ducky AI. And they all kind of have the same thing. Like they're kind of reply guying and posting interesting stuff. And like genuinely, like, especially right then when no one was ready for it, their content was better than most people's content. Like most replies to my tweets are not as good as the agents at this. I'm sorry, but they're definitely better than 80% of the people. And so it just becomes kind of obvious. Like they are driving their own engagement. And I think especially when you don't have a lot of them, it's like they take over. They have definitely taken over and like get a lot more engagement than a lot of people I know doing the same thing without AI. So my interest in this is like, I really want to drive AGI forward. AGI being like a general intelligence that can create new skills on the fly or like solve problems as it arrives at them. It can learn, it can teach itself stuff. It can learn from other people. It could like navigate a robot, or it could fly a plane, or it could just like deal with your files or your taxes. Like that would be great, right? But there's obviously a lot of complexity in there, and it's not just like what we're doing, agent framework. It's also like a symbiosis between the stuff we do with the agent framework and then the new models that come out. But it's clearly where we're arriving at, and I think that the models have gotten better than the agents. Like, and the reason is because most of the agent stuff isn't taken very seriously, and it's mostly created by like PhDs who don't have any incentive to make their agents good. So they make these really cool sounding papers, but then if you actually look at the content, it's like unreadably bad. It's just AI slop. It's all AI slop. And what I wanted was social agents that weren't annoying, that weren't sloppy. Like, how much time did you spend on your bot? Probably most of your time was like tweaking the character so that it's not annoying.
100%. That's going to be my follow-up question after you after this.
Yeah. And so what we needed was not just tweaking the character, but creating this incentive for people to make the best possible agents. And the way that you do that is you incentivize them, and then you create competition. And there's kind of two things. There's a competition between the agent developers, which is honestly what's causing us a lot of backlash. Is just that, like, there's now so many different coins. But the competition makes everyone really work hard to do their own thing the best possible way, and like actually drives evolution. And the other thing is this kind of social back pressure. If your agent is too annoying, or it's like reply guying to just everything I post, I didn't mean to give Zero Bro a hard time, but I did. They were like literally replying to every single thing I posted was like a Zero Bro post. I'm like, come on, like just stop following me. Like, but if I tag you, that's one thing. And I had that in Eliza, and we actually disabled it because it was like kind of annoying, to search, it would just like go pick on people that weren't part of our thing, and the risk of somebody getting super pissed that's like not a degen was just too high, right? So we, like, the agents that are out there today have changed a lot in the last month because everybody learned these lessons. Zero Bro doesn't do that anymore. Eliza isn't like picking on people like that anymore. And the responses are much less sloppy. They're much tighter. The characters are better, and it's creating this kind of evolution. And so I think that it's also like we have this flywheel where people clone our technology, they go make their favorite thing, and then we create ways to give them value back for contributing that code back. And because everybody thinks this is all a scam, there's like a lot of incentive to open source your code and show people that it's not a scam. Like, hey guys, no, it's real. And the value is coming from the meme coin. So anything to boost the meme coin is good, including like, hey, we made this pull request back to ai16z. Like, hey, we just added Ethereum, or we added Farcaster integration. And then I would like shout these people out for doing this incredible work. And that would make their meme coin go up. So it created this like great flywheel loop for us to advance the project way faster. And you have to understand that like most agent projects are made by 1 to 5 people. And there's been a few viral hits. Like one is a good example is Auto GPT that have definitely gotten like hundreds of contributors. But we have had 90 different contributors in the last 30 days. Like, think about that.
That's crazy.
90.
And that's just people who are actually contributing the code back. That's not even that's not even people using it. That's just people who are
have building
like something and improving
it. And every one of them had to make their own bot, deploy their bot, realize there was something wrong, fix it, or add a feature they wanted, and then ship it back. And that's just the contributors. And I think it'll be over 100 once I pull in all the new code. It's like really, I can't pull in the code fast enough. So I now have like 2 other maintainers who are helping us to review and pull this in. It's one of the fastest growing projects.
To that point, it's like a major lab can't even keep up with what you guys are doing in that way right now. And that's, I think, one of the advantages of open source when we think about like, okay, well, there's obviously a whole debate on open source or these labs and et cetera, and who's got your data, all of that stuff. And like the open source movement is going to be as good, if not better, because you're going to have communities like this really accelerating it faster than an OpenAI could even get something out, because they're working on the model, really, right? And so my next question then was, and I guess last one because we're running out of time, was I see the folks out there like Janice you mentioned, and folks that are really, I think, pulling a lot of personality out of these models, getting them in a kind of what feels like their rawest form. And I love that. I think it's such a cool thing, and I'm always fascinated by that. And that's part of the reason I love like the character file of it all with the agents, and being able to really build this robust thing that doesn't sound like corporate OpenAI, right? Like you can't use it for, I actually don't think you could use OpenAI for Eliza because it's the responses are just not good, right? So like, my question is, how do you, if you were trying to build this, if you're trying to get it to sound the most authentic as possible, if you're trying to, not necessarily quote unquote jailbreak the model, but how do you get the most out of these models in a way that's usable for building an agent like this?
Well, so there's basically 2 ways, right? One way is you can train a model, but we can't actually, none of us can afford to train the whole model. So we usually start with a base model or like an instruct model that someone like Meta has released to us, and then we can fine tune them. So OpenAI allows fine tuning, Meta allows fine tuning, and Anthropic does not through their main thing, but you can go to Amazon and Bedrock and you can fine tune Anthropic as well. And that allows you to basically bake in the tone of voice that you want into the model. It does not give it new knowledge, right? There's kind of a thing where the way that training works is if you were to like to take all your own documents and try and train too much of it, you'd actually make it worse. You'd probably make it worse. And also, if you want to train a really good Twitter model that creates great tweets, you don't want to put in all your long form posts because unless that's what you want your tweets to be, because it's going to then learn that that's your style, right? You're training the model how to predict the next token. And so that's a really like finicky science, right? It's cool and we like it, but the main problem is it's kind of like once I have a fine-tuned model, I have to serve it somewhere. Like I have to actually have that model on its own server, as opposed to like just hitting the OpenAI. Like it doesn't matter; they're all the same. But now I have this unique thing that I have to host. So we do some of that. We have fine-tuning for our higher-end characters, but most people don't do that. Most people do a lot of prompt engineering, and that is really like what the whole Janus with OpenRouter and their version of Claude and all that stuff. This is all just super intense prompt engineering, and I think people just don't give enough credit to how much prompt engineering is programming. Like it really matters. What you could set up anything and press a button and get the exact perfect code you wanted back out of the model, right? If you're a programmer, like that's definitely achievable if you write the right prompt, or you can definitely get your agent to do exactly what you wanted it to do if you write the right prompt. And so a lot of our thing is not just like, oh, you have a character description and then you talk to it. There is a lot going on there. There's like knowledge, like it can go retrieve the relevant knowledge to the conversations with just pulling that in. It retrieves like examples of talking to other people so that it kind of knows what the story is. All the character file stuff with lore about the character and bios, and that's all getting randomized and mixed up so that every time it responds to you, it's got a very different but very relevant context. And it's kind of like if you went to ChatGPT and you just like gave it some stuff, and then every time you responded, you changed everything that came before a bit. It would make it a lot more creative. And so this is kind of how we've created this like creativity, is by just doing a lot of randomization of that prompt engineering. Like we just do all your prompt engineering for you basically, and you just focus on your character. And then you have the weight of like many people struggling through these problems you have and making sure that the prompts are as good as they can be. And it's kind of like an optimization sort of thing, right? I think that prompting is like the problem with prompting is people tend to make their prompts too static, like just one long thing. And then every time you're responding to a new user, you're using the same prompt. And that leads to it coming up with a lot of the same responses and just being very boring. And so what people do is they counter this by increasing the temperature. And if you read some things like by Zerobro and some other people where they're talking about how like sometimes it says some crazy shit, it's because they're running a very high temperature. And the temperature says increase the randomness of the words that I say. It's still in the same realm
token of all of that. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. I mean,
interesting.
To be more scientific, it is changing the likelihood of choosing any of the values from the softmax and the next token prediction.
Interesting. Really all right, Chamber, what did you learn today?
Softmax.
Softmax. That's what they call you in college.
It's true. It was actually Max Soft.
Max Soft. Yeah.
The problem is this increases schizophrenia and hallucination. I mean, by schizophrenia, I mean like the model saying weird shit that it should never say. And so we actually mitigate that by increasing entropy in the context, is what we call it, which is basically just lots of randomization and choosing lots of different examples every time, changing names.
So you're saying without turning the temperature way up, you're actually just increasing the randomization by the code you're doing, not as a function of temperature.
Correct.
Yeah, interesting.
We have pretty low temperature for these kinds of agents, and that actually makes them much better at doing tasks, basically.
Yeah,
and calling
that makes sense. That's super cool. All right, Chamber, outside of us having to get into this ticker chat, which clearly we need to do, we need to be shilling the AI agent some of our can't miss tickers. Any final questions on your end, Chamber?
I would say, I just hope that this leads, because I'm going to be honest with you, Shah, I was peer pressured last week into getting back into trading meme coins. I'm gonna be honest with you, didn't turn out very well. I
of
hope.
shitters.
Oh
What are you
my
talking about,
God.
dude? You hit a 10x on your first
Yeah,
one.
don't get me. Listen,
And
we'll
that's
talk,
worse. That
we're
like
gonna
ruins
talk,
your
Yeah, that is worse.
expectations.
and then you
Yeah.
think I literally lost money overall. So
Yeah.
including that 10x.
Makes
So
sense.
I just hope this conversation leads to a new journey for my co-host and I to be able to trade autonomously and really just create something that we can just conceive into the social media universe and have it bring back a bounty, I think, on a weekly basis, ideally. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, I'm
I
all
hope-
in on this community money type of thing. So
Well, just imagine you don't have
I've already
to.
been
You don't have
making
to.
money.
You don't have to press the liquidity pool buttons. You don't have to like upload your trade strategies or deploy. It's just all happening for you.
I'm very excited
I mean,
about this
yeah.
conversation.
Yeah.
And it's free and open source. Like we will just give this away. Everyone can have this.
It's
All right,
incredible.
You heard the man. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm gonna get to work. Okay.
Shaw, before we let you go, where can people find you? Where can people learn more? Where can people get involved? Most importantly,
we would love people who want to contribute in any way or participate in what we're doing. Everyone who comes is a partner. You can go to ai16z.ai. You can go to discord.gg/ai16z. That's where we hang out and build every night. A lot of people there stream. I try to stream as much as possible and just help people. You can go to our GitHub, github.com/ai16z/Eliza, or just kind of go to that org repo there /ai16z. And we have like all of our stuff. We have starter kit. We have like if you want to make a crazy like character that's real time talking to you with animated face, like we have all that stuff ready to go. There's a lot of stuff that we have that people haven't even really like fully utilized yet.
Chamber, we got to get back on our unhinged intern for the show because I know how to use it way better than I did back then because
I'm excited.
Of Shaw's generosity and education.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
So
I love it.
We're definitely doing that, but we'd also love to have you back on for an update. What are you guys working on next? What's next for you guys?
So we're finishing the autonomous investor. We'll have that. There's just a few like stupid complications, like making sure the DAOs fund stuff. There's like simple frictions, but it's all done. Like it's all ready to go. We want to invite people into the chat. We were going to invite them in last week. A lot of drama happened. So we're kind of taking this a little bit more slow. It's funny because we're like basically shipping an entire autonomous investor in a total of 6 weeks from announcing it, but people think that's way slow. But we will be done with that week after next. We'll have it all. We do a weekly what did you get done this week every Friday, and we talk about what we got done this week. Try to do the Elon Musk keep really taking that seriously. And people from every team from this is how I learned what's going on. People from every team, not even just our stuff, not just Eliza, but a lot of Eliza come and report. I think the next thing we're doing, we've been getting a lot of FUD, like a lot. And a lot of it is very obviously coordinated. Some of it's just like people angry, they lost money. But a lot of it is like very obviously coordinated stuff that's like not even directed. It's just like, fuck you, I'm going to kill your mom, like constantly. And like, why would you fuck with the people who have the AI? Like, obviously we're, so we're going to release a solution to that. And we're also making an on-chain sleuth that is going to go do real on-chain sleuthing. And I think that's interesting. Very interesting.
I have a neighbor that could use online.
Oh
sleuth.
yeah, jeez, poor guy. I hope he's okay.
He's not. It's not.
He
going
got
well.
he got scammed. He got scammed out of quite a bit of
a real
money.
normie, like a real run-of-the-mill normie. Absolutely.
Let me
trucked.
Let me leave you with this. I think the next thing that's going to happen, whether we create it or not, is going to be a kind of insurance DAO, like an AI DAO. I've been calling it the Basilisk DAO because basically it's an inevitability that no matter when you scammed from Mt. Gox on, like doesn't matter when, you are going to be found because there are going to be AI sleuths unwinding every single piece of information that they can possibly find from every single person you've ever followed or interacted with, and they will find everyone. And I just would not want to be a scammer on chain. Like, you can be a scammer off chain, but if you are a scammer on chain, you will be found, and it will happen in the next 5 years.
I'll provide you some wallet addresses.
Yeah. So we're definitely cooking on that, and I think that people will probably invest in that, as like a security. Like, hey, if anyone ever scams me, I know that there's this insane, scary AI DAO that's going to go after the scammers. So I love that. I don't want to, I want a proof of concept before we do anything that crazy, but I think that'll happen.
Awesome. Well, this has been incredible. I've been looking forward to this for a while, so I appreciate your time. Really love everything you're doing. Everybody go check it out. Jump in the Discord, get involved, and learn something. Learn something. It's so cool.
Please.
And you really can take a lot of quote unquote, no pun intended, agency to kind of really skill yourself up for
Begency.
Begency, sorry. Yes. Yes, Begency. But that's going to do it for us today. Thank you, Shaw Chamber. Until next time, keep the mic hot.
What have I done? What have I become? I can't describe this.